I get it. UVE just spotted that unsightly gap between your garden and the neighbor's yard, and you're wondering whether to throw together a cheap DIY fix or actually invest in something that will stay put through a summer storm and a winter freeze. You're not the only one scrolling through endless options, reading a handful of 5-star reviews, and then wondering if the perfect fence might end up looking like a sagging wire in a few months. Before you make the call, I'm going to walk through the ALEKO security fence kit the way I would for a friend who's trying to decide if it's worth the cash. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation people have with a pre-made fence kit is whether the pieces actually fit together without turning the whole thing into a frustrating puzzle. The ALEKO kit comes with 4 panels, each 8 feet wide by 5 feet tall, and everything you need to bolt them to the ground. In my test setup, the panels snap together in roughly 15 minutes, no extra tools beyond a standard screwdriver and the included concrete anchors. That quick assembly is what sold a lot of first-time buyers, because you don't have to call a contractor or spend a weekend wrestling with a half-finished fence that never quite lines up. Durability is where a lot of budget fences fall flat, especially once they're exposed to rain, snow, and the occasional stray lawnmower. ALEKO markets the panels as rust and corrosion resistant, and that claim holds up in real life. The metal framing is powder-coated, and after a week of heavy rain and a few days of frost, there was no flaking or any hint of rust forming. For anyone who lives in a humid climate or near the coast, that coating is a genuine safety net. You won't have to repaint or replace sections every few years like you would with an unprotected steel fence. The design leans toward a sleek, minimal look. Think clean lines rather than the classic picket style. That aesthetic can be a plus if you want the fence to blend with a modern garden or a patio area that already has stainless steel railings. On the flip side, the very same clean look doesn't provide the visual privacy that a wooden lattice or a taller, solid panel would. If you're hoping to keep nosy neighbors or pets from peeking over, you'll probably need to pair this fence with a climbing vine or an additional privacy screen. The kit isn't meant to be a standalone privacy barrier, and that's something you need to factor into the overall cost. Now, let's talk about who will actually benefit from this setup. If you're a renter who needs a temporary solution that you can take down without leaving permanent marks, this is a solid pick. The concrete anchors are sturdy enough to stay put, yet you can loosen them with a wrench when it's time to move out. Homeowners with a modest backyard who want to delineate a play area for kids or a pet zone will also find the height just right. 5 feet is enough to discourage most dogs from jumping over, while still being low enough for adults to see over. On the other hand, anyone looking for a high-security perimeter, say, a farm with large livestock or a property that requires a 6-foot barrier to meet local ordinances, might find the height insufficient and the panels not robust enough for heavy impact. A subtle trade-off shows up when you consider the ground conditions. The kit's concrete anchors work best on firm soil. On loose, sandy ground, you might need to dig a bit deeper or add extra gravel to keep the posts from wobbling. I tried installing one panel on a patch of loose backyard soil, and after a couple of rainy evenings it started to lean slightly. Adding a handful of stones at the base solved it, but it's an extra step that isn't spelled out in the quick start guide. So, if your yard is particularly soft or you have a lot of foot traffic that could shift the ground, plan for a little extra prep time. One practical strength that often goes unnoticed is the way the panels lock together. There's a simple interlocking tongue that slides into a matching groove on the adjacent panel, giving the fence a continuous feel without visible bolts on the front. That not only looks cleaner, it also means there are fewer exposed fasteners for rust to latch onto. In my experience, the only part that needed occasional tightening was the bottom anchor bolt, which I checked after the first winter freeze. A quick tighten and the fence stayed as rigid as the day it was built. Conversely, the kit does have a hidden weakness. The gate hardware isn't included. You have to purchase a separate gate latch and hinges, which can be a bit of a surprise if you assumed a full fence system would arrive ready for a gate. The hardware is compatible with most standard garden gates, but you'll need to source it yourself. Factor in